Welcome to the Inglorious Blasters podcast, a Star Wars Legion podcast talking anything and everything glorious or inglorious about the game. My name is Corey, and with me today is John and Brendan. How's it going, Bucket Brains?
It's going good.
Bucket Brains.
Yeah, I'm trying new nicknames for you guys. This one's from Rebels. I think Ezra says it a bunch.
Bucket Heads.
It sounded
Bucket Heads
familiar.
a lot.
Bucket Heads. I think Bucket Brains is also one time. Anyways,
They might. But, since
I
I
have to
mostly
rewatch
play
it.
Empire, it works.
That's right. So today on the podcast, we're going to be talking about Atlantic City Open. All three of us went, and we're going to talk about how we did, the list we brought, and then we're going to go over some of the new Shadow Collective rules and maybe some interesting new lists that are possible, right? Something that just sparks our interest. So how about I'll start it off with the Atlantic City Open. So that was a fun time. Let's see. I went with my old Adepticon list. So for those of you that don't know what that was, it is I ran droids. So it was a separatist list with the AAT, with the OOM pilot with high energy shells. And then it was 5 B1s. 2 of them had snipers. 2 of them had repair bots. 1 of them was naked. And then I had 2 spiders with attack protocols, the ion cannon, and then link targeting array. And then I was running 1 Magna Guard with just the rocket. And to top it off with my commander, it was Kalani with comms relay. It's just like a droid's good stuff, right? Like everything's good. I love having the tank there to just shoot and maybe stomp on a KP, key positions point in the center. And then I have a Magna Guard to like go toe to toe with like anyone that comes close in melee that I couldn't mow down at range 4. That's the idea about how the list operates. So I'll go quickly over some of the more interesting battles that I had. So I went total for the whole event. I went 2-2. So day 1, I ended up 2-1, and my final game for the day 1, I played against Evan Bulris. That sneaky raccoon got me again. Once on stream at Adepticon and once here at Atlantic City Open. So this time he beat me on the bid. I forgot to mention it in my list overview, but I'm 791, and ideally I want to be blue player, sit at range 4 and shoot. But he beat me by 1 point on the bid, so we used his battle deck, and his list was like the stuff of nightmares for mine, especially with his battle deck. So he was running clones, Captain Rex, and just a mishmash of like clones, and then he had 3 naked barks, and then 1 Wookiee warriors with like a battle shield. So then during the battle card flip, we landed on Payload, and I think it was Major Offensive. Payload, Major Offensive, and then I can't remember the condition. It was probably clear. And Payload was like the best option out of, Hostage or any of the other ones. So that's what I went with. I made some mess ups there. I went with my tank and 2 spiders too early in like round 3, I think. The way we set up our payloads, we were going the opposite direction of each other. And my payload point was a little bit closer to me than his was to him, if that makes sense. So I had a better chance to score more points. So
Payload is not good for your army.
No, not really. I don't want to move. I want to be lame and just sit back and shoot. So then what happened was he played the 3-pip, which I think gives 4 orders out for clones, maybe 5 because he had 5s. And what happened was in my head, I was like, oh man, he's going to do like this big fire support and just like crush a spider, because like my spiders just don't make saves. If you get any type of crit, they don't make any saves. My white dice are very cruel against my spiders. Don't know why, it just happens. So I was
Like
like, oh
this.
man, I have to like go and shoot at his clones with my spiders before, before they get crushed. That was my fatal flaw. He did not fire support at all. And then I was like, well, if I already went with my two spiders, I might as well go with my tank. And then I literally left the center of the board open for him to just like openly go and contest my payload like freely. So that was a big oopsie on me. I should have waited. And then the other mess up I should have done was use at least one of my spiders to go interact with his payload because he only sent one guy over there. I don't really play payload too often because it's not in my battle deck and I just don't practice it. So yeah, Evan got me real good on that one. My Magna Guard just kind of melted out in the open. He got like 7 hits out and out of cover shot, and they just like they failed all of them, all of the saves. So I was like, great, this is great, thanks,
So your Magna Guard are
great.
just as good as my red saves. Got it.
Yeah. So I was like, ugh, this is not great. They did kill Wookiees, which like I guess I can't be too sad about, but it was still not a good trade because I needed them. I needed them to go lock up and kill at least another unit. But oh well, Evan got me good on that one. Uh, Evan and I joked about it later, but apparently we were just playing the sweatiest game when it didn't even matter because both of us were going to make it to the final day. I barely edged it out, right? It was just SOS math eludes me. Anyways, so I barely made the final cut, and then um, let's see, my final game, it was against a rebel mishmash of stuff. Like it's literally take one of almost everything, and it was a bunch of Pierce in that list. So he had like Lando, what is it? Lando, Cassian. He had R2. He had K2. I think he had two snipers, Biston, uh, like a Rebel DLT, a Z6, and then what is that? The Rebel veterans, and then the Mark II or Mark threes. So like, it's just like one of everything.
Yeah, definitely sounds
Um,
like it.
It's almost like a Highlander list of sorts.
yeah, actually,
Pretty
that's
close
probably
to
the
it.
name for it, the Highlander list.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's see, we were playing my battle deck, and we ended up on Long March, Intercept, and he made a play on turn two, which was a scoring turn, which like I just didn't see him coming. I didn't see coming, or like I didn't see him committing to. So what he had done was he had moved Lando up to the intercept point to score the first, to try and score first, and then I couldn't kill Lando that turn, so I was like, oh, maybe I will just send one of my B1s into there to just go contest it, and then that way neither of us score the middle. But he had double moved Cassian into the middle. I didn't expect him to do that because Cassian had taken some wounds from earlier shots. So what I should have done was just let him have it and then just score like in the last few turns. Losing that B1 unit was not worth it. So that was like my major mess up on that one. And yeah, so and then he just pierced and just shot the rest of my stuff through like what do you call it? It was like through light area terrain in the center. So those sniper shots were just like no cover at all. Oh well. Overall, I was pretty happy with how I did, but that's about it.
Well, before we move on to John, yeah, I mean, Corey, congrats on top eight in two subsequent tournaments. So
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I
It's
don't
funny
don't know what to
that
say. Droids are great.
very good.
that list is a list that if it was like the round one opponent, you're like, okay, this guy has no idea what's going on. But it's almost the opposite feeling when it's like a top eight game where you're like, all right, well, he probably won all three games going into this, so there is gotta be some synergy that I just don't see, and now I have to be anxious the whole time waiting for some like gotcha scenario to unfold in front of you.
Yeah, it was interesting. Like I was like, I don't know how this is gonna unfold at all. Lando just kind of died early. Cassian went into pistol mode and just tried getting some crits through. Honestly, the his core was doing most of the work, and then the snipers did a lot of work too. So Biston had went on top of like a building to just like recover shoot at spiders the entire game, and I was able to get off a lot of ions with my 2 repair bots, but yeah, it just wasn't enough. I needed like one more round of shooting with my AAT. I think I could have won if I had killed at least another rebel act. But oh well, pretty happy.
As you should be.
Yeah.
As you should be. Well,
Yeah, so,
cool.
John,
Well,
how'd it go for you?
it went well. I also made top 8. I was playing just basically another variation of my Wookiee list that I've been playing for the last 6 months or so. 9-act list, 7.99. I have no problem playing red. In fact, I kind of prefer it with the Wookiee list because picking the side and getting the terrain that you're looking for is sometimes more important with that list. But yeah, it was 2 Wookiee warriors, a shooty Wookiee, the Wookiee chieftain, Padme, and then 3 Phase 1 clones, 1 RPS, 1 Z6, 1 naked, 9 activation. I dropped one of my heavies to fully load all the Wookiees, so I had tenacity and offensive push on the melee Wookiees with recon intel, and the shooty Wooks had overwatch and targeting scopes, and the chieftain had situational awareness, tenacity, vigilance, and recon intel, and he was actually clutch in a lot of games, because with the situational awareness and scale, you pretty much can always keep him in heavy cover and kind of sneak him into objectives, and he feels pretty much invincible. Because on a double move, especially if you held on to a dodge from the previous turn with vigilance, he'll end up with 3 dodges and heavy cover. So it's pretty much like the first 5 hits are gonna go away no problem. And then on top of that, he's got a million wounds. So even if it's like, oh, here's 8, and it's like, all right, 5 of those are gone, 2 to the heavy cover, these 3 are gone from all these dodges I have here, and then you roll 3 saves and take 2 wounds on average. And it's like perfect. He's got another 5, and then he just runs away and scales back up things. And so kind of the idea behind the list was like a peekaboo style list where they could get in, get out, and ultimately set up some cool fire supports that your opponent doesn't necessarily see coming when you utilize scale, because they're behind a building and all of a sudden they're on top of the building and get that extra move, and then they're right there to get their bowcaster shot with an extra 10 dice from a Z6 that's fire supporting into it. So you have 18 dice if it's the shooty Wooks, or 20 dice if it's the melee Wooks. 18 and 18. My apologies. So yeah, it's a pretty nasty fire support. So game 1 was against another clone list, which ended up being Breakthrough, which was a very sweaty game 1. Probably my sweatiest game 1 that I've played in a tournament. There was a lot of rolls where I was setting up a really cool fire support, expecting to wipe a squad, and the first one was 11 saves, Pierce 1, and he saved 9 of the 11, so took 3 wounds with the Pierce, and then the squad ran away. He was blue player, so I definitely had to eliminate an activation, plus he was 10 acts to 9 on Breakthrough, and we both were playing the secret mission card for Padme, so I was like, I need to eliminate an activation to go up on kill points, and even then still just tie with units going. So we were kind of almost like toilet bowling around, and I was just chronically trying to set up this fire support that was going to eliminate an act and then allow me to just basically run over this giant pyramid and then say, okay, well, you either lose or you come at 4 units of Wookiees basically. But he saved out of it again on the next one, 8 for 10 saves. And then it ended up being basically a slugfest. So then it was like, all right, it's a YOLO moment. I'm either going to just lose this here and now, or I'm going to charge them. And I ended up winning 7-6 for units scored in Breakthrough. But it was like by a hair. There was a single man unit that I had just kind of taken care of that was pushed me over the edge there. Game 2 was an Empire player. We played Intercept the Transmissions, and the Wookiees were kind of able to do like a peekaboo scenario where they were in, out, in, out. So he was never able to really put enough wounds through to chew them apart. It'd be, like 1 or 2 wounds here and there, and I just kept getting the center, then kind of retreating out. Then he'd push forward, then I'd set up a fire support, eliminate an act, then move back. So it's kind of like a whole peekaboo situation the whole game. So I think at the end there, he was a 10-act Empire list, and I took out 5 of the acts, and I was pretty much intact. And then game 3 was against Mike Zarello, and another intercept game, major offensive. Surprisingly, my game 2 kind of set me up for that same idea of the peekaboo, where the Wookiees would run in, grab the intercept at the end of the scoring round, and then just basically run back out before they got like mowed down. He was playing a droid list, Dooku double Magna, BX sniper, and then 6 B1s, 4 I think had E5Ss. So he had a lot of range between both Magnas, all the E5Ss, the sniper, and then Dooku can do all kinds of craziness. So I was like, I'm going to stay at range 3 of you. I don't want to... The last thing I wanted was one of my Wookiee squads to be basically picked up and thrown into the middle of the board, or an open scenario where then they just get mowed down by the rest of the stuff. So it ended up being not overly interactive. He was able to take some shots on me here and there, but I was basically looking at the board, and there was some nice line of sight blockers on his intercept point, because with major offensive you each kind of have like one right on the corner of your deployment and then the one in the middle. So I basically just double moved the Wookiees all over to his deployment between turn 1 and 2, and then got them just at range 1 of the intercept. So I was able to score all 3 intercept points at the end of round 2, the first scoring round. So then it was 3-0. And then I was like, okay, if I can score these 3 and then score center and mine, and then just score mine, so almost sweep across, then sweep back, it would end being 7-5, I believe, because I got the 3 initial ones. So it'd be 3, and then I'd score 2, and then I'd score 2 on the final, even if you got the center. So I basically did this whole sweeping forward with scale and just hopping over things, and then boom, I'd grab the objective, and then they'd run back and scale back over the same thing and be on the other side of the terrain so that they couldn't take return shots.
Scale is one hell of a keyword.
Yes. So I think it was, well, I know it was very frustrating, I think, from Mike's perspective, because they would kind of do a last first situation where it's like, all right, my last couple activations are the Wookiees pop out, and then they'd eat like a couple shots. A bunch would go away to heavy cover. They'd take 2 or 3 wounds, maybe lose a Wookiee, and you're just like, well, I don't even care. I just need to be in and out. So he was picking off Wookiees here and there, but at that point it was like, I don't even have to kill anything. I just need to keep popping in, popping out. And then the fact that, like, if he were to pursue me, then you just get taken down by the Wookiee horde of the chieftain, the double melee. Padme can give him the standby, so it's almost like 5 Wookiees, basically. So I think he was a little timid about, like, approaching them too much, and then ultimately what happened is I snuck that first intercept point at the end of round 2, got all 3, and then basically started retreating behind the buildings and swept back to my deployment zone. And I think he conceded at the end of round 4 after the second scoring, when it was 5-1, and he was like, wait a second, like, I don't even think I can get to your home objective to take it from you. And it's like, yeah, it's going to end up being, 7-4, 7-5, regardless of what you do. So then he conceded. So kind of a sneaky peekaboo style smash and grab situation with the Wookiees abusing the scale keyword and getting to pick my side of the table, where I was able to kind of set that up a little bit. So that was day one, 3-0, and then came back on Sunday for top 8, played John Bushman. Ended up being Long March, and the table that we had no scalable buildings. So it was kind of like a fishing town looking setup, like from The Mandalorian. And so all the buildings had these real sharp peaks. So the models could not actually physically sit on the rooftops because they just come sliding or falling down.
Right. You couldn't execute your game plan.
Yes. So literally before the first thing I did when I walked up to the board is I was like, I don't think I can actually scale anything here. So like me and John were literally like going building to building, because there's a couple other ones that didn't have like the real sharp peak, but it was a more gradual, and they were still just sliding off. And he was like, yeah, man, like I don't think you can actually scale any of this. And I was like, yep, I think you're right. So honestly, at that point, yeah, I tried not to like, I was like right on the verge of like going into tilt mode, where I was just like, this is BS. I can't climb over anything, which is kind of, a huge part of the way that list operates. So ended up being Long March Intercept, and I was like, all right, my only shot here is doing another peekaboo situation. He was playing the Luke DLT gun line. So he had triple sniper, double vigilance, rebel officers, the 4 DLTs with the captain situational awareness, and then a fully loaded Op Luke. So I basically ran in there, scored the center, and then I don't think I ever scored the center again, because he just positioned himself turns 1 through 3. Kind of like, it almost felt like he let me grab the center so that he could just sit in position, and then he was basically in a position where it's like, okay, you pop out, I'm going to throw about 40 dice at these guys, and then if I try to shoot you back, I can't do anything because you're in heavy cover with unstrippable dodge, essentially, from Nimble. So they almost felt invincible when I was trying to trade shots with them. And any shot that I set up, like I did have a couple good fire supports, he'd 8 hits would get through, 2 would go away to the heavy cover, 1 from the dodge. He'd roll 4 or 5 saves, take 2 wounds, and then the squad would die in return because it was at range 3, thereby in range of all of his stuff. And then once the Wookiees kind of got whittled down to like three models or less per squad, then all of a sudden Luke just like burst of speeded into me, and that was pretty much like game over. He did not actually attack the Wookiees with Luke. He merely tied them up. So he played I Am a Jedi, so then 2 of them couldn't attack, and then he just sat there. Because if he killed them, then they're in the open to then be exposed to all the shots. And then every time I tried to withdraw, he'd then go with Luke next and force push the unit that activated back into himself. So I remember like turns 3 and 4, I'm literally like circling the board, like I guess I'm basically unable to do anything with this Luke guy sitting here. So yeah, it was rough. And then I think we actually ended up playing. It was at the point where I was like about to concede, but it's like, well, I drove all the way back down for the Sunday game. We might as well play it through. But there did not seem like there was a legitimate shot after the second scoring round at the end, second scoring round at the end of round 4. But yeah, so a little bit of a rough loss. The peekaboo It got me through game 2 and 3, but it was foiled on game 4 when I was unable to scale the buildings, and then I was also on long march against those rebel DLTs. Pretty rough, but it was fun. It was a good time. Overall 3-1, so I was really happy with it.
Yeah, I mean, 3-1 is great. Sounds like just the worst thing to happen was your army is table dependent.
Yes,
Yeah, good job, man.
Very much so.
What did I tell you about Long March?
You never
pick that.
play
It's-
Long March.
you never play Long
never
March.
play it. I was kind of in a situation because I had to ban Payload, and I think John thought I was joking when I said, well, I have to ban Payload because I've literally never played it, either in like a practice game or a tournament. And he looked at me like, all right, this guy's like trying to play head games. And when in actuality, it was a dead serious comment. I've never played it. so I had to ban
should have
Payload.
with a bunch of Wookiees.
You definitely should have.
So I banned
Might have been a little bit
Payload.
easier.
Yeah, I banned Payload to get to Intercept because I had no idea how to even play it. And I'm thinking like, well, the peekaboo trick worked game 2 and 3, so let's give this a shot. 43 wounds of Wookiees is hard to chew through. You've got between the melee and shooty Wooks, 12 wounds per squad, and then 7 for the chieftain. So it's 43 wounds total of peekabooing, jumping over buildings, and grabbing objectives and taking off.
Well, John, my biggest recommendation to you is play Payload. So,
Yeah, I think
I should
you
probably
actually
practice
want to
it
play
one of
Payload.
these days.
Yes.
yeah.
Read the objective card and then go from there.
Yeah, we're
Step 1.
getting a
read
little
the objective.
spoilery here. Yeah, getting a little spoilery here. I had never played Payload before on a table, but I had it in my deck. So, and I was blue player all my
Ooh.
games. So, 2 of my games I ended up playing Payload. But my army was, I was talking our last episode. I kept waffling real hard. I decided eventually on a Vader do list. Vader with Saber Throw, Force Push, Tenacity, and Seize the Initiative. 3 dewbacks, all with Tenacity and a T-21, one of them with an HQ uplink. I also threw a Royal Guard in there with the Electrostaff and Ascension cables, an Imperial officer with improvised orders, 2 Stormtroopers with T-21s, and just because people think it's horrible, I threw in a Stormtrooper with an HH-12, a Specialist, and Recon Intel. So yes, I brought an HH-12. You're all welcome.
I like the Ascension cables on the IRG.
Yeah, they're doing their best Wookiee impersonation.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, that's sweet.
Yeah, it's good stuff. And then
So
you can still
obvious-
use scale to hop over stuff.
Exactly. So obviously my list is very melee focused with 3 dewbacks, IRG, and Vader. I was 793, and I ended up being blue player in all of my games. With the third, we had tied, and I won the roll-off. So, first game, I got paired against Mike Cirillo, who we just learned John played in round 3. I got to play him in round 1, and clearly John won his first 2 games to play in the third round. So Mike beat me. Long story short, even with my deck, I got too aggressive early, and I lost a dewback turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3. And at that point, I just could not chew through stuff. I learned from my mistakes and did much better in my next 2 games. I got too aggressive. Instead of going Darkness Descends, I went straight into new ways to motivate them turn 1, and he was just a little bit too far to get. So my dewbacks were opened up to a few too many shots. So I learned my lesson, and round 2, got to play another CIS list. This one had kind of a smorgasbord of things. Kraken, 1 Spider, 1 Magna Guard, Maul, and a bunch of B1s. Um, Again, we're using my deck, and we ended up on Battle Lines, Limited Viz, and Payload, which is just amazing for my list.
Limited Viz, real good.
Oh, yeah. So that went very well for me, and very few models survived for my opponent at the end. Basically, it was Vader and Dewbacks go one way, my Stormtroopers and Officer go the other way, and my IRG goes where it needs to go. So basically almost everything died. So, and
Excellent.
I was able to score my payload, and I was able to stop his from moving. So it's a
Nice.
good time. And then my third game, I ended up against an Anakin Bark list. And yes, we got payload again. So this one was much more interesting. Basically, Anakin and the clone ball went one way, and the Barks went the other way. The Barks ended up having to face all of my Stormtroopers and the Officer, and all of my melee threats went into the clone ball. If you look at the final score of the game, it was a tie, because he was able to get his payload all the way, and I was able to get mine all the way. But if you look at the table, he had 3 miniatures left.
Nice. I wonder who won.
Yeah, so I won that game as well. So I did end the day at 2-1, but not good enough 2-1 to make the cut because I did lose that first game. But it was a great time, had a lot of fun, and so John, payload. It's what you want. You get your melee stuff towards them. Works every time.
I should probably play it once.
I agree. You should play it.
So what we haven't touched on yet is both Saturday and Sunday there were skirmish events. So anybody who played on Friday could play skirmish on Saturday, and then anybody who played on Friday or Saturday could play skirmish on Sunday if they didn't make the cut. So I did end up playing the skirmish on Saturday, and I know Corey did as well. I was very happy that there was no paint requirement for the skirmish. So it let me play with some models I haven't really played with yet, and I decided to have some fun with Dooku. So I brought Dooku, 2 naked B1s, and 2 Magnas with rockets and situational awareness. Yeah,
You just brought the gross stuff. Like it's literally just you don't care about the core. Your Magnas and Dooku will do all the heavy lifting.
Exactly. And man, Dooku is so much fun to play. So I'm very much looking forward to the point when I have my Separatists painted up, and I will definitely be running some Dooku lists. But man, it was just a lot of fun. Round 1, I actually ended up against the same guy I played round 3 the day before. And he was using Anakin and some Wookiees and some clones. It looked like a pretty even matchup until defense dice had to be rolled, and things just really went in my favor. So I won that game. The next game was up against it was another Republic list. This time it was Obi-Wan. So I went from Anakin to Obi-Wan, which felt very thematic playing as Dooku.
Yeah, double the fall. Here we go.
Exactly. And so similar result. This time, though, we were playing the skirmish version of Breakthrough, and I was able to get 1 Magna Guard on 1 wound left into the deployment zone to score. I would have won on kill points because I did kill Obi-Wan, and a full ARC squad with 5s in it with jetpacks. which was
Oh yeah, you would have won that one then.
pretty cool to see. But yeah, so that was a really fun game. And then the third one is the game where I thought I was going to have a lot of trouble because I ended up against a 6-act rebel list that had Sabine, Clan Ren, and Han.
Nice.
It's a lot of Pierce.
Yeah, a lot of Pierce, and we were playing basically I guess it's the key positions, just the center objective sort of thing. I believe it was turn 2. Played. I cannot remember which of Dooku's command cards it is, but it's the one where he gets versatile, so he can do his melee and shoot lightning. And no, sorry, I played his 1 pip, so I got the Relentless. Yeah, it's the same card, right? Am I drawing? Again, I've only played it the 3 times now.
I'm pretty sure that's the 3 pip.
No, the 3 pip is the
that-
one that does the lightning and double move. So it's the 1 pip that gives him Relentless and versatile.
Oh, sorry, the Relentless plays.
Right.
Yeah, the 1 pip. Yep. Yeah.
Right. All right. So on the 1 pip on turn 2, I'm able to double move into Han, kill him in 1 shot with my lightsaber, then do my lightning at Sabine, who was right next to Han.
You split fire this?
You have
Nice.
to. Versatile means you have to do the lightning attack.
Yeah.
You can't combine the attacks. So I got.
Oh yeah. Right.
So I get both attacks in. I get a little bit of wounds on Sabine, and then I force push Sabine into Dooku, and she doesn't have the Darksaber. However, that same time, my opponent, he played a 1 pip too. He played explosions, and now Sabine can't escape her own explosions. Because she's
awesome.
invasive. So he goes through with the explosions, but Sabine takes like 2-3 wounds off her own explosions.
Did she die off of her own explosion?
She did not. She died the following turn. But man,
Close
and
enough.
then
That would have been
meanwhile,
epic.
it would have been so good. And meanwhile, at the same time, Clan Ren's right at range 1 of Dooku, so he's just for the rest of the game choking 1 wound off them each turn.
Nice.
So at the end of it, he still had Clan Ren, and I think 1 guy left in a Rebel Trooper unit. So at the end of the 3 rounds of skirmish, I was 3-0, and there was 1 other person who ended up being 3-0. I thought, I got the pair down round 3, so I thought I was going to get 2nd place. Turns out I got 1st place because the first person the other 3-0 played in round 1 dropped after round 1. So because the other person dropped without SOS words, I got 1st place. So I got a trophy for getting 1st place in skirmish. So while
Congrats, Brendan.
Congrats.
Yeah. So while Corey and John may have gotten top 8, I came back with a trophy.
Womp womp.
It's very true.
Yeah, and then again there was skirmish on Sunday. I did intend to play in that with a Callus list. I decided not to because there was an uneven number of people, and I let the person who was supposed to judge play in that way. And then I ended up being the judge for skirmish on Sunday, which was pretty easy. Just a couple line of sight calls.
Yeah, skirmish is pretty chill. Awesome.
We really,
Good job, Brendan.
really represented, I feel like, that weekend. 2 top 8s and a skirmish winner.
Yeah.
Yeah, look out, world.
Look
For the
out,
Inglourious
world.
Basterds.
We're
Be
like
your us.
celebrities.
Whoa now. Whoa.
Whoa. Don't know about that yet. So thanks to Nick for hosting a great tournament. Nick Bodner. His tables looked awesome as per usual. He had way more tables than he needed. I don't remember the final count of tables, but it was like at least 13 tables extra that he needed, or some crazy amount. I don't remember. So
Yeah,
yeah,
they were
it was
numbered.
awesome. Thanks, Nick. Very much appreciated.
Best tables win.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then he's gonna be doing what's his next tournament? There might be
PAX
another
Unplugged.
showcase one, and then PAX Unplugged. That's right.
Oh boy,
I don't know about you
listen.
guys, but I can't wait for PAX Unplugged. Should be
Ah,
fun.
that'd be a lot
I'm
of fun.
excited as well. Now I know to get there with much more time to battle through the line at the entry.
Yeah, last time you were like a minute away from like start time.
Yes. And I think I got there like 30, 45 minutes in advance, and I was thinking, like, oh, just walk right in. And it's like, no, you have to get in this line of thousands of people. And I think they were checking vaccination cards. So, like, not only that, it was like a very, like, yeah. Yeah, I was, it's giving me a touch of anxiety.
Yeah, and I
But I made
also
it.
hope that. Yeah, I also hope next year you decide to take a picture to remember where you parked. Because
Also,
Oh yeah, that
John,
was so funny.
John couldn't find where he parked afterwards, and I parted ways with him. And as I'm driving down the street, I still see John wandering, trying to find his car.
That's funny because we also parted ways, and then I just see him also walking on the street. I'm like, where are you going?
and I didn't even
He didn't
know.
even know. He doesn't even know.
It's a miracle. I don't even know how I win these games. Like people, I just float.
You spend all your computing power on the game, and then like everything else is just dead to you.
99% of my brain is going into the stats of black, red, and white dice for Star Wars Legion, and then I save the 1% where I just like float through life.
Nice, awesome. Alrighty, so how about we wrap that up, and then we'll talk about some new Shadow Collective rules. So if you think I'm prepared, think again. But we could just
None of
talk
us are.
about. Yeah, no, not at all.
Not at all.
We could talk about some of the new lists that we're interested in trying. If you're wondering how the Shadow Collective rules, like what are they? They're up on Atomic Mass's website. I could spew them out to you, but that might sound boring. So instead, I'm gonna go over like a list or two that I think is interesting. So we got the bounty hunters available to like the bounty hunter rework, and that means Bosk can now be in what is that? In Separatist, which is like amazing.
Disgusting.
Yes, yeah, full order control, and then yeah, Bosk gets
Yeah,
benefits
'cause,
off that.
like, what the Separatists really needed was another range 4 gun, and this one actually
Yeah.
delivers.
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, we could just I'll just briefly go over it. It's basically my AAT list that I brought, right? Just minus the AAT, and then just adding a whole bunch of more guns, right? So you got a regular generic super tac with comms relay, Bosk with like hunter targeting scopes, and then you got 6 B1s. The version I came up with is you have 3 sniper ones, two of the repair ones, and then they have electro binoculars, and then are naked with just electro binocular, and then Magna Guard with RPS and situational awareness, and then 2 ion spiders with link targeting array. So yeah, that comes out at a sweet 11 axe and then 793. That's super gross.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. The order control and like the extra benefit that Boss gets. What he got like a point. I think he got a points cut, and then he also got
did.
independent surge 2 with scale. Scale is a much welcome change for him. So hell yeah. Scaling up, just scale up a building and just shoot at rain hell from like range 4.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's exactly what I want to do.
disgusting.
Do you guys got any lists or anything interesting? Any interesting ideas you want to try with the new rules available to us?
So one thing I want to try, since Bosk does have the points drop, I want to, and I've tried it before, but I just haven't found a list I'm happy with yet. I want to do a Bosk and Callus list, because I really, as you know, I like more of a melee skew, but I just would love to be up against a non-droid player and be able to play merciless munitions against somebody.
Right.
Just a bomb with poison you can't evade no matter how good you roll. It's just so nice.
It absolutely is. Yeah. I think that should do well, like especially if you add some shore troopers to that, right? So you can shoot at range. They could shoot at range 4, along with Bosk,
Yeah,
and then you can effectively choose whatever cards you might need in that situation. So like you got it's coordinated fire, and then lying in wait, and then what's Callus's 3-pip?
Callus's 3-pip
Yeah,
Is it
I
the
forget name of it.
ruthless tactician
Root.
with all the observation
Yeah.
tokens?
Ruthless
Or,
tactics. Yeah.
Yeah,
oh,
yeah. So they all kind of do the same thing, but like depending on your situation, you could just kind of pick which card you need, which I think is like good flexibility for a list like that.
Yeah, I mean nobody really plays anybody with contingencies. Um, mostly because I mean Callus feels a little undertuned, trying to do a little too much. But I mean, he seems fun. I definitely want to play with him more.
Callus is interesting for sure. The tactical one shots are really good. So just move, maybe get an out of cover shot and shoot some. It's not bad. He's in an okay spot. It's just other things are better.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and as good as he is with his staff, he has trouble against people who are more melee focused.
He's no Jedi. He'll
No,
get crushed.
he's no Jedi, and he will not stand up to a bunch of Wookiees
Nope.
or Magna Guard. He just can't put out the dice to deal with them.
Yeah, I think he'll do well against other troopers, but just not any of those specialized ones.
Agreed.
which is kind of the meta right now that you see so many Magna Guard, lots of Wookiees. So like it's almost like he doesn't play well in the current meta either.
Yeah, which is why you probably don't see him as much.
Yep, exactly.
John, what about you? Do you have any lists that you want to try out or thinking about?
I've put together a couple lists. There's not a whole lot of things that I can add into clones, just because they're already point straps. So even if you throw in like the 2 naked pikes, it saves you a couple points, but you end up still needing the 3 phase 1s or phase 2, phase 1 combos. So there's been nothing where I was like, oh man, like this solves a big problem for me. You'd almost just rather have those points and use like a naked phase 1 as like a dodge aim battery. So I've looked at like a couple just Shadow Collective only type list, or what would that is it technically a battle formation, a Shadow Collective battle formation?
Oh yeah, it's technically a battle force.
Okay. So I mean, the couple things that I thought were interesting, just looking at more of like a skeleton of a couple things, is like if you do a double pike capo with vigilance, 5 or 6 pike foot soldiers, 4 with the range 4 gun, 2 naked, and then maul with force push, saber throw, and up close and personal. That's 626, 9 acts. And then I keep playing around with the other 175 points to make it 11 act, whether you do like super commandos or change one of the pikes out to a black sun to get more range 2 firepower. Like you can upgrade one of the nakeds to the black sun and then also do the super commandos, make it a 10 act, and then between maul, the super commandos, and the black sun, there's some interesting stuff, all kind of lined back by this range 4 gun line with double vigilance, and then the fact that they've got outmaneuver. It's not as cool as the rebel one because of nimble. Like once they spend the dodge, it's gone. They don't just keep recycling it essentially, where it's like this never-ending dodge token, cover 3 type situation almost. But it seems interesting. I don't know. I mean, on paper, I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. So I'm excited to try something in that vein.
I'm actually looking at something similar to that. two pike capos, 6 pikes with, the range 4 guns, and then Mandalorian super commandos with Rook, and then situational, and then Maul with force push, saber throw, vigilance, and tenacity. And that's 10x at 790. That's like a pretty sweet bid.
That's solid.
So like that's what I'm looking at. I'm like, okay, you got the range 4 gun line, and then super commandos can back up Maul. They get the retinue with Rook.
Yeah.
So I think you just play all Maul cards, and then like your pike capos will just feed dodges via the aid keyword. Whenever they take a dodge, they can give a dodge to someone else for just the low cost of 1 suppression. So it's not as good as like nimble rebel troopers, but like it's still pretty sweet. Like this is probably the first list I'm going to try with this battle force, because 10 act Maul, yeah, sign me up with like a pretty decent bid. I'll infiltrate on recover the supplies, and then nightmares will ensue.
Yeah, then your opponent just goes, all right, see you later. I'll pack up my stuff.
Okay, all right, we can end this game.
You concede after the infiltrate. You put the Maul down via infiltrate. They get out their range ruler and go, yep, that's a double move grab situation. You know what? I quit. The turn 0 concession.
That's right. Alrighty, guys, how about we wrap this up? Stay awesome. There you go.
Stay glorious.
Or no. That's not our catchphrase. I forgot our catchphrase. Stay glorious, everyone. Alrighty, I'm Corey.
I'm John.
I'm Brendan. I don't know what to say about this episode. Bye!
If you liked this episode and would like to interact with us, please like our page on Facebook, search for The Inglorious Blasters, a Star Wars Legion podcast. Follow us on Instagram at SWL Inglorious Blasters. Subscribe to us on your preferred podcasting app. Please give us a rating and maybe leave a review. It would really help us out. Stay glorious, everyone.